The shovel hit concrete 3 feet down, and I knew we'd found something. Eleanor stood at the edge of the hole, her breath fogging in the October cold, holding the surveyor's map her uncle had left her. Behind us, the Atlantic crashed against the cliffs, and ahead of us, our daughter's words still echoed. "You're not welcome here anymore." But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started 6 weeks earlier, in the kitchen Eleanor had painted yellow 30 years ago. Our daughter Patricia sat across from us, her husband James beside her, both wearing expressions I'd seen on corporate boards but never expected in our home. "We need to discuss your living situation," Patricia said, sliding a folder across the table. I was 74. Eleanor was 71. We'd lived in this house since 1978. I'd built the deck myself. Eleanor had planted every tree in the yard. She'd been a librarian for 33 years. I'd worked as a civil engineer, designing water systems for 3 counties. We'd raised 2 children here. Our son Michael had died of cancer in 2015. Patricia was all we had left. "What situation?" Eleanor asked quietly. James opened the folder. "We've been approached by a development firm. They're buying the entire street for a luxury housing project. The offer is substantial." "This is our home," I said. "It's actually in Patricia's name," James replied. "You transferred the deed 2 years ago for estate planning. Remember?" I did remember. Patricia had convinced us it would protect the house from being seized if we ever needed long-term medical care. "So it stays in the family," she'd said. "So you're protected." "We've accepted the offer," Patricia said. $1.2 million. Settlement is November 1st. You'll need to be out by then. Eleanor's hand found mine under the table. "Patricia, sweetheart, where are we supposed to go?" "There are excellent senior communities." James produced a brochure. "We've researched several options. You'd be much safer, wouldn't need to maintain a house." "We don't want to leave," I said. Patricia's voice turned cold. "The decision is made, Dad. The papers are signed. You have 6 weeks." We spent those weeks in a kind of shock paralysis. Every apartment we could afford on our combined Social Security, $2,300 a month, was either too expensive, too small, or wouldn't accept tenants our age. The senior communities wanted $4,000 monthly. Patricia didn't return Eleanor's calls. When I finally reached her, she said, "You're being dramatic. Plenty of people downsize at your age." "We didn't choose this," I said. She hung up. In the 3rd week of October, Eleanor was sorting through her uncle's papers. Walter Cronin had died 6 months earlier, a Coast Guard veteran who had lived alone in Maine. We'd barely known him. Eleanor had inherited his personal effects but assumed there was no property, no money, just photographs and service records. Then she found the envelope. Inside was a deed to coastal property in Massachusetts, a strip of land marked Cronin Estate, 1.3 acres, Rockport Township, and a letter in her uncle's precise handwriting. "Eleanor, if you're reading this, I'm gone. The property is yours. What's on it is yours. Tell no one." The entrance is marked by 3 white stones arranged in a triangle, 20 yards from the cliff edge. Everything below is legal, bought with legal money, held legal for 60 years. I couldn't use it, too many ghosts. "Maybe you can. Destroy this letter when you're done. Love, Uncle Walt." We drove up on a Thursday. The property was exactly where the deed indicated, a windswept piece of coastal land north of Rockport. Nothing but scrub grass and rocks, and the constant sound of waves. No structures visible, just emptiness. But we found the 3 white stones. Eleanor held the map while I probed the ground with a steel rod I'd brought. The soil was shallow here, mostly sand over bedrock. 15 feet from the stones, the rod hit something solid. We started digging. 3 feet down, we uncovered concrete. A slab, poured smooth, with a seam running across it. I cleared more soil, following the seam until I found the edge, a hatch, sealed with a wheel lock like something from a submarine. The lock was rusted but still functional. I put my weight on it. Metal screamed against metal, and then, with a groan that seemed to come from the earth itself, it turned. The hatch lifted on counterweights, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. Eleanor looked at me. We'd been married 48 years. I knew every expression, every hesitation. This one said, "We have nothing left to lose." I went down first. The ladder dropped 20 feet into a corridor lit by emergency lights that flickered to life as I descended. The walls were concrete, the air surprisingly dry. Someone had built this to last. "Thomas, Eleanor's voice echoed from above. "Come down," I called. "It's safe." She climbed down carefully, and we stood together in the dim corridor. Ahead of us stretched a bunker, Cold War era, I guessed, built into the bedrock beneath the coastal soil. We found living quarters, a kitchen, a radio room with equipment decades old, and at the far end, a vault door with a Coast Guard insignia and a combination lock. Eleanor pulled out her uncle's letter again, turned it over. On the back, in pencil, 37-18-44. The combination worked. The vault door swung open on hinges that barely whispered despite decades of disuse. Beyond it was a room, maybe 20 feet square, lined floor to ceiling with metal shelving. And on those shelves were boxes, military-grade storage containers, sealed with wax and stamped with dates ranging from 1955 to 1963. I pulled down the nearest box. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were stacks of bills. Hundreds. Old design, but pristine. "Thomas." Eleanor's voice was barely audible. She stood before an open box on the opposite shelf, holding a leather journal. "You need to read this." The journal was her uncle's. The first entry was dated April 1955. "The Coast Guard doesn't talk about what we did during the war or after. Special operations, they called it. Recovering assets from seized vessels, German and Japanese ships taken as prizes. Some of the cargo was documented, handed over to the government. Some of it wasn't. Some of it disappeared into warehouses, forgotten. I was assigned to a salvage unit that worked the Atlantic coast, 1945 to 1954. We found things. Cash from smuggling operations. Gold from wealthy passengers trying to flee Europe. Assets the government couldn't publicly acknowledge because the ships themselves were classified. In 1954, they decommissioned our unit. Told us everything would be destroyed or absorbed into black budgets. But my commanding officer, Captain Raymond Shaw, he had different ideas. He built this bunker on family land during the war, meant it as a civilian defense shelter. Never got used. He proposed we use it to preserve what would otherwise be destroyed or stolen by bureaucrats. The 12 of U.S. who knew about the salvage operations agreed. We moved everything here over 6 months. Split it 12 ways, documented in a master log held by the captain. He died in 1958. Before he went, he told us the bunker was ours collectively, but whoever survived longest would hold the deed. I'm the last one alive now. This money, it was lost, recovered, and lost again to bureaucracy. We gave it purpose. It's legal. No one's looking for it. It never officially existed. I couldn't spend it. Never married. Never needed more than my pension. But maybe family will. Maybe you will, Eleanor. It's yours now. The rest of the journal detailed the contents. Box by box, shelf by shelf. Walter had maintained the bunker for 60 years, checking the seals, running a dehumidification system powered by solar panels hidden in the scrub grass above. We spent 2 days counting. Eleanor kept tallies in a notebook, her librarian's precision taking over even as the numbers grew absurd. Hundreds became thousands, became millions. Some boxes held gold coins. Some held bearer bonds. Old, but according to Walter's notes, still valid through a complex trust structure he'd established. On the second night, sitting on the bunker's small cot, Eleanor set down her pencil. $360 million, she said. Approximately. The bonds are harder to value exactly, but Walter's last assessment in 2015 put the total around that. We sat in silence. Above us, the October wind howled across the coastal grass. Below us, 6 decades of hidden wealth waited. It's legal, I said, reading Walter's documentation again. He kept records. The salvage operations were official, just classified. When the program ended, this was effectively abandoned government property with no official existence. Possession, held for 60 years. The statute of limitations on any claim expired decades ago. What do we do? Eleanor asked. I thought about Patricia's face when she told us to leave. About James's folder of senior community brochures. About the house we'd built, sold without our consent. We make this livable, I said. We disappear. And we live. Over the next 3 weeks, working with cash and careful planning, we transformed the bunker. I hired contractors from different towns, electricians, plumbers, HVAC specialists, paying each in cash to work on a private shelter project. None of them saw the vault. I built false walls. creating a hidden entrance to the vault room behind what looked like a utility closet. We upgraded the solar panels, installed a modern ventilation system, brought in a real kitchen. Eleanor ordered furniture and had it delivered to a storage unit. Then we transported it in a rental truck. The bunker had good bones. Walter had built it right. We just modernized it. We moved out of our house on October 31st, the day before settlement. Patricia didn't come to help. Didn't call. We loaded our car with what we wanted to keep: photographs, Eleanor's books, my tools, and drove north. The bunker became home. Strange, underground, but ours. We installed full-spectrum lights to fight the lack of windows. Eleanor created a reading corner with her favorite chair. I set up a workshop in one of the storage rooms. We could go outside whenever we wanted. The land was beautiful in its stark way. But we found we liked the quiet below, the sense of being held by the earth. Patricia called in late November. Eleanor put her on speaker. "Mom, I was calling to see how you're settling in. Where did you end up?" Eleanor's voice was calm. "We found a place." "Where?" "Dad won't answer my calls." "Somewhere safe," Eleanor said. "Somewhere we won't be evicted from." A pause. "Mom, that's not fair. We did what we had to do. The offer was too good." "You sold our home while we were living in it," Eleanor said. "After we trusted you with the deed. After Michael died, and you were all we had left." Mom, I'm sorry it felt that way. But you have to understand." "I understand perfectly," Eleanor said. "Goodbye, Patricia." She hung up. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face was composed. "That was hard," I said. "It was necessary," she replied. That night, lying in our underground bedroom with its comfortable bed and soft lights, Eleanor spoke into the darkness. "We could destroy her, couldn't we? Buy her house. Ruin James's business. We have enough." "We do," I agreed. "But we won't." "No," Eleanor said. "We won't. We're better than that." Above us, winter was coming to the Massachusetts coast. Below, we were warm and safe and richer than we'd ever imagined. And we'd only just begun to figure out what to do with it all. Winter came hard to the coast. Above ground, snow covered the scrub grass and ice formed on the cliff edges. Below, our bunker stayed warm, the upgraded systems running smoothly. We'd installed skylights in the main living area, clever design work that made them look like natural rock formations from above, but let in light below. Eleanor grew herbs under grow lights. I built bookshelves. We created a life. But the money haunted us. $360 million. Eleanor said one morning in January. We were having coffee in our underground kitchen, reading newspapers I'd picked up in town. Just sitting in that vault. "Walter held it for 60 years, I said. "Walter was alone," Eleanor replied. "We're not. Or we shouldn't be." She showed me the newspaper. A headline about the local food bank closing due to funding cuts. Below that, a story about families losing homes to medical debt. "We could help," Eleanor said quietly. We'd talked around this idea for weeks, both of us thinking it, neither saying it. Now it was out. "Carefully," I said. "Anonymous. Nothing traceable. Nothing over 10,000 at a time," Eleanor added. "Structured like normal donations from a family trust." We started small. 5,000 to the food bank, delivered in cash in an unmarked envelope with a note. "From someone who understands hunger." 3,000 to a young family whose story we'd read. Their daughter needed surgery they couldn't afford. We sent it as a grant from a private foundation, with paperwork I created using Walter's old trust documentation as a template. It felt good, better than anything had in months. Over the winter, we developed a system. Eleanor would read local news, identify needs. I would research, verify, ensure the need was legitimate. Then we'd deliver help, sometimes cash, sometimes paying bills directly, always anonymously. We drove to different towns, used different methods, left no patterns. A roof repair for a veterans center. Scholarships for 3 high school students. Medical debt erased. Small business loans that appeared mysteriously. We became invisible benefactors, and the money, barely touched, continued to sit in the vault. In March, Patricia called again. "Mom, please. I need to talk to you." Eleanor looked at me. I nodded. "I'm here," Eleanor said. "James and I separated," Patricia said. Her voice was thick. "The development deal fell through. The company declared bankruptcy. We're in litigation. I lost my job because of the stress. Mom, I've lost everything." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. "And you're calling because?" Because I was wrong. Because I threw away my parents for money that's now gone. Because I'm sorry. Are you sorry? Eleanor asked. Or are you desperate? Patricia sobbed. Both. I'm both. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But you're my mother, and I'm drowning. Eleanor closed her eyes. I watched emotions cross her face. Pain, anger, love, grief. 48 years together, I knew she was thinking about Michael, about having only one child left. Where are you living? Eleanor asked. A friend's couch. I have nothing, Mom. Nothing. Eleanor looked at me. I shrugged slightly, her decision. There's an apartment complex in Gloucester, Eleanor said. Harborview. Unit 3B just became available. It's paid for 1 year. The landlord is expecting a Patricia Morrison. That's all I can give you right now. Mom. That's all. Eleanor repeated firmly. You have a year to rebuild your life. Don't waste it. And don't contact us again unless you have something to say besides asking for help. She hung up before Patricia could respond. Did we just, I started, pay for her apartment using an LLC I set up last week? Yes. Eleanor smiled slightly. I'm not heartless, Thomas. She's still my daughter. But she needs to fix herself before we can fix us. Will we? I asked. Fix us? Maybe, Eleanor said. Someday. But not today. Spring transformed the coastal land. We planted wildflowers in the fall, and now they bloomed in waves of color. We built a deck above the bunker, disguised as a simple observation platform, where we could sit and watch the ocean. Eleanor photographed birds. I painted, something I'd never had time for in my working years. We continued our quiet charity. By summer, we'd helped 43 families, paid for 6 scholarships, and saved 2 small businesses from closure. The total spent was barely $3 million, a fraction of what we had. The vault still held enough for 10 lifetimes. In August, Eleanor came home from the Rockport Library where she'd started volunteering. She was holding a newspaper. Thomas, look at this. It was a feature story about mysterious charitable acts in coastal Massachusetts towns. Guardian Angel Donor helped dozens of families. The reporter had connected several cases, families who'd received help, debts that had disappeared, organizations that had found unexpected funding. People are looking, Eleanor said. They won't find us, I replied. We've been too careful. And we had been. Every donation had gone through different channels, different methods. The apartment for Patricia had been rented through an LLC established months before. There was no pattern, no trail. But we decided to be even more careful. We expanded our range, started helping people in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Spread it out, kept amounts smaller, made it impossible to connect. Patricia called in September, exactly 1 year after she'd told us to leave our home. Mom, it's me. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I'm calling to tell you I got a job. Office manager at a nonprofit. It's not much, but it's mine. And I'm in therapy, working through things. I just wanted you to know. Eleanor's eyes filled. I'm proud of you, Patricia. Can I see you sometime? Not now, I'm not ready. But sometime. Call once a month, Eleanor said. Just to talk. If you miss 3 calls, we're done. Can you do that? Yes, Patricia said. Yes, I can do that. After the call, Eleanor sat quietly for a long time. Was that right? She asked. I don't know, I said honestly. But it was kind. That matters. 2 years passed. Patricia called every month, never missed. She told us about her job, her therapy, her slow rebuilding. She never asked where we lived. We never told her. We continued helping people. The vault's contents slowly decreased, but barely. Even giving away $5 million a year, we'd need 70 years to empty it. One evening, sitting on our deck watching the sunset paint the Atlantic copper and gold, Eleanor took my hand. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Disappearing? Keeping the money. I thought about the bunker below us, warm and safe. About the families we'd helped. About the quiet life we'd built, free from expectations and disappointments. No, I said. This is who we were meant to be. Do you think we'll ever tell Patricia? Eleanor asked. Maybe, I said. If she earns it. If she proves she understands what matters. And what matters? Eleanor asked. I squeezed her hand. This. Us. Helping people who need it. Living with purpose. Not revenge, not wealth, just purpose. The sun sank below the horizon. Below us, the bunker hummed quietly, its systems running smoothly. In the vault, $355 million sat waiting to change more lives, one anonymous gift at a time. We'd been thrown away like trash. We'd found treasure. And we'd learned that the greatest wealth isn't what you have, it's what you do with it. We were the richest people on earth, and we'd never been happier. Patricia would understand that someday, or she wouldn't. Either way, we were finally completely home.